I don't have time to waste. You know I only hire economists from LSE and you come from IE where all they do is go to fucking Mondays. Convince me you belong here, fast.
Well, I did go to IE and I went to fucking Mondays lots of times. But what if I told you that we performed better at Hassan's class than the LSE students?
I'd say you're full of crap.
Well, pick a topic.
Alright, let's talk about label productivity slowing down. Fire up that laptop. In the paper, Why is Productivity Slowing Down? They say that in the mid-2000s, labor productivity started going down in the big economies. It's a big puzzle, but we know the pieces. Go on.
Alright. First, capital dipping. Companies aren't investing in physical and ICT capital the way they used to. The financial crisis didn't help, but even before that, investments were slowing. Second, what I found here is that global trade. International trade growth has stalled, and the productivity boosts we saw from global chain values have already been reaped. Third, human capital and technology. While workers are more educated, the benefits are plateauing. And innovation, it's there, but we're not translating breakthroughs into the widespread productivity gains.
So you're saying it's a mix of investing slowing down, trade stagnation, and inefficiency with tech and people? That sounds like a textbook answer.
Well, maybe, but the implications aren't. The slowdown looks like it's not just numbers. It's lost opportunities for higher living standards and growth. Fixing it means tackling these issues head on.
Yeah, it's easy to say when you are looking at a laptop.
Well, playing Snake.
Alright, you're hired, but you got a lot to prove. Don't waste my time.
Thank you.
See the money won't stay for you. Getting all the piece of pie for your wife. Everybody wanna know how it feels. Everybody wanna see what it's like. Living in a big house, I don't mind. Me and Misty is the one that was the best at making money. Alright. Greenback Boogie.
Afternoon. Salamanca Capital. My name is Jose Ibarra. This is Andres.
My name is Alfredo Morena. We're from the New Capital and we'll be happy to assist you tonight. Come here.
Now, with the data we have from our own company, we've seen that historically investments in infrastructure, machinery, and technologies have taken productivity from our level. While we've also seen that since the mid-2000s, that those investments in ICT capital and physical capital have gone down, which would in turn mean that workers have less tools and less resources to enhance their productivity, which would lead us to say that that's one of the reasons that makes productivity go down.
That makes sense. It reminds me of the solo growth model, where capital accumulation initially drives growth but eventually faces diminishing returns. So as capital deepening slows, productivity growth naturally tapers off.
Yeah, of course. And we can also tie this to the Romer growth model. Well, the shift towards intangible assets like R&D and software is supposed to drive innovation and sustain growth. But if these investments are riskier and their benefits delayed, well, it disrupts the expected productivity gains.
Precisely. Solo explains the initial drop due to the reduced capital accumulation, while Romer highlights the inefficiency in intangible investments for sustained growth.
Productivity growth is slowing, despite rapid advancement in technology. People argue that innovations like AI and ICT have a lot of potential, but the misallocation of R&D is creating a tailback. R&D spending has shifted to sectors like healthcare that have less productivity spillovers. Plus, we're seeing a lack of complementary investments and organized changes that are critical for realizing the full potential of these technologies.
And that ties directly to the Romer model. Well, as you guys know, innovation isn't external. It is driven by economic decisions. If R&D shifts to areas with lower productivity spillovers, overall growth would slow down. I would say Romer would say this misallocation slows how new ideas build on old ones. If key sectors like ICT with big knowledge spillovers are underfunded, technological progress can get slower.
And don't forget about diffusion. The Romer model suggests that for new technologies to be integrated into the economy, new investments are required in skills, infrastructure, and business models. Without those, even the best of the innovations will translate into immediate productive gains.
Are you completely sure about that?
Look at my analyst! My macro specialist! Just look at him. Do you notice anything different about him? Look at his face. I'll give you him. His name is Amartya Sen. He won a national math competition in India. He doesn't even speak English. Of course I'm sure about it.
Fair play.
Actually, my name is Tomas. I'm from Venezuela and I speak perfect English. My boss just says that because he thinks it makes me sound more authentic. And I'm really not that good at math. I got second place in that competition, by the way.
We also need to take into consideration the acceleration of trade globally and globalization more generally.
I agree. As a matter of fact, we've had that trade has been decreasing over the last 20 years, especially after the financial crisis in 2008. And we see that before, the levels of trade were extremely high. Some would say that it was actually very unrealistic to maintain those levels of trade in the long term, especially after the introduction of China into the global market and the fall of the Soviet Union. So what trade helps us to do, it lets us be more productive, as we can export the lower productivity jobs to emerging economies, and we can keep the high demand and increase demand for the high productivity jobs in the countries that have very strong economies.
Here again, taking back to the Romer growth model. As in it, we experience increase in returns to scale.
Yeah, but we only experience such returns when we combine both areas of capital.
This is exactly where I wanted to go. The deceleration of trade and the pushback against globalization limits the supply of knowledge worldwide.
And now that the model cannot benefit from economies of scale to be more productive, productivity starts to go down. Am I not right?
You would be correct. However, this report does have some limitations. We can see that as firms shift from investing into more tangible capital assets into more intangible assets like R&D, software, and AI, it is much harder to measure, as there are some spillover effects which may delay the impact on productivity. Furthermore, this report doesn't take into consideration or doesn't really tap into the aging population in most of these advanced economies. And another problem is that it doesn't really go into depth about emerging economies, and it doesn't talk about how these economies might solve the problems of decreasing productivity that the advanced economies are facing today.
His name is Amartya Sen. He won a national math competition.
In 2008, we've seen the decrease in global trade. So,
But I guarantee you that we are better than the LSE students at Hassan's class.
Mislocation slows how new ideas. Fuck.
Bye.
I may have gone to IE and I did go to Funky Mondays a lot of times.
Are you sure about that?
Look at my analyst, my macro specialist. Just look at him.
Yes!